Cartoons are an unavoidable part of everyone's childhood and, for those who truly fall in love with them, even adulthood. These animated films have been a source of imagination, games, and even cosplays that bring cartoon characters to life and portray the characters' personalities and phrases. It feels safe to say that cartoons have left us with plenty of messages that we carry throughout our lives, but we wondered if all of these messages and lessons that we might have picked up were good ones. Today, we will examine some of these messages that we may have needed to be aware of. Number 1. Scar and Hercules. As we will see in this first example, not all messages we have received through cartoons are merry ones. Scar, the infamous villain from Disney's The Lion King, may be one of those characters who transcended not just his role, but also the story he is from. No one could have forgotten the treacherous betrayal that this villain relied on to rid the main character of his father, Mufasa. Even though he is quite a hated character, we will see that his demise was spread not just through The Lion King, but also through another Disney cartoon. The name of the second cartoon we mention is also a famous one. Its name is Hercules. It seems Disney didn't feel it was enough to get rid of Scar, but they even resorted to dragging his remains throughout their other famous cartoon. In the story of Hercules that Disney portrays, our hero grows strong through the support of his satyr mentor, Phil, or if we go for his full name, Philoctetes. In their path, they started from the training grounds and reached the pinnacle of the hero's glory through various brave feats and, if we may notice, a good PR done by his mentor. In one of the scenes that shows the appreciation people have grown to have for the famous Hercules, he is being drawn upon a vase by an artist. Creating some resemblance to the actual Greek mythology, we see Hercules striking a pose, holding a club and a shield, and wearing what the myth would tell us is a Nemean lion's skin. It is here that things get somewhat twisted. Let's take a closer look at the pelt of the lion. We recognize the villainous character we previously described, Scar. If we followed the story that Greek mythology has left us with, we would expect that Hercules is actually the one to have taken down the beast himself. However, in the Disney universe, there are theories connecting the dots in another way. An explanation could be that throughout his adventures, Hercules has saved the life of a hunter. Later, this hunter stumbled upon the Scar's body and used the pelt of the lion as a gift to Hercules for saving his life. Number 2. Pinocchio. If you lie, your nose will grow, a trick that some witty parents use to make their kids confess if they have hidden some secrets. This timeless cartoon has brought us the ideas of how important honesty is and what it means to be a responsible young human. While it is a playful way to convey many such ideas, it also leaves us with some dark ideas hidden directly in plain sight. On his adventure to become a real boy, the wooden doll discovers many vices. Suppose we were to ignore the age of the characters we see playing pool, smoking, and even drinking. Even in that case, a very dark secret message is still hidden within the story. We can acknowledge this playful idea of showing kids the dangers of getting carried away and the wrong path that even fun-looking activities may take. In this manner, a clear warning may have been sent to the young folks. Digging deeper, however, we'll see that it is quite questionable whether some lines were crossed here. If that wasn't the case, it certainly came near it. Underneath the scenes shown and the playful enjoyment Pinocchio has experienced for the first time in his life, we recognize quite dark, subliminal messages. These could be interpreted as inducing fear of being abducted, imprisoned, and sold by sly characters. To introduce these dangerous waters, the cartoon creators relied on characters clearly named in a way that outlined the worrisome message. Honest John, a character represented as no other creature but a fox, is tasked with collecting what is called stupid or oblivious little boys. These are then taken to a place that carries even more terrifying meaning, which may not have been picked up by children who watch the cartoon, but adults clearly get the message. The place's name is the Pleasure Island, and it is the one from which the stolen boys don't return. To symbolically present the kids with the danger of being tricked into similar situations, the boys are shown to turn into donkeys. What makes things even scarier is that this whole process is pushed by a character called the coachman, who stands behind the whole scheme and is the one paying the fox to do the dirty work of collecting the stupid little boys, as he refers to them. After the boys are turned into donkeys, they are sold off on the black markets. Number 3, Beauty and the Beast. As we have seen, there could be some quite disturbing thoughts hidden in the experience of watching a cartoon. Dangerous characters, situations, and other serious messages can be hidden right underneath the cartoon's manifested looks. In this next example, we will see how Beauty and the Beast relies on hidden details to communicate various messages, some more fun than others. Opposite to the previous example, one of the scenes that seems frightening, causing a sense of fear and seriousness, was used to convey a less dangerous hidden message. When we imagine getting lost in the dark and menacing forest, following all the available signs that point us towards safety is a kind of pointer we would rely on. As he is faced with this frightening experience of being lost, Belle's father stumbles upon an intimidating-looking sign showing various directions. To put some light on this uneasy scene, or as a joke, animators who worked on it wrote some interesting places on those signs. One of these is Anaheim, the home of Disneyland, and another one is Valencia, which is where the Institute of Arts is, the one where many Disney animators have honed their skills. Throughout Beauty and the Beast, animators seem to have taken their audience's age into account and did their best not to make scary scenes even more frightening. Nevertheless, they didn't want to get lost in this effort and make the scary scenes too goofy. As a way to achieve a perfect balance of these two elements, they relied on briefly shown details that took a while for anyone to notice. In the final fight between the famous antagonist Gaston and the Beast, after pleading for his life, the muscular brute throws himself into another attempt at the Beast's life. As he fails, the final scenes in which he is included show him falling into the abyss. While one could assume that this meant the end of this character, we did already see him faking a similar occasion. To make sure we are all on the same page, the animators placed a menacing detail which is shown very briefly in Gaston's eyes. Just before he falls to his doom, skulls are reflected in his pupils. Number 4, Mickey's hands. We have seen how animators can occasionally use details as a way to have some fun or even outline a message that they don't want to make stand out too much. However, the work of these artists isn't an easy one, and secrets can be hidden in both the details that are placed in the drawing and those that are intentionally left out. A mystery that has been around since some of the first cartoon characters appeared on the scene has to do exactly with one of those details we have never seen. One of the most iconic characters, Mickey Mouse, whom we have followed through many adventures, is the center of this mystery. To just go on and say it, what is up with Mickey's hands and fingers, and what are these famous white gloves hiding? Hiding hands is sometimes used as a way to communicate that characters are dishonest, have something to hide, or even suggest that they have stolen something. It was also questioned whether the white gloves were symbols of something and what the meaning behind Mickey having 3 fingers and a thumb was. Many theories have gathered around this question. One of them suggests that this was a hidden message referencing Mickey's status as a Freemason, a secret Mason order associated with white gloves with 3 stripes on the top side. As we will see, others feel that reading that deeply into it would be wrong. Instead of holding a deep and interesting message, the answer could be quite simple. For any of us who have even once attempted to draw hands and fingers, it is no mystery that this isn't an easy task. Even with a lot of effort invested in this attempt, the results often end up looking unrealistic or even straight up hilarious. Walt Disney noted that if the character were to have 5 fingers, it would make it look like a bunch of bananas. Furthermore, since Mickey's hands would be as black as the rest of his body, we wouldn't be able to see them in animation whenever they are placed in front of his body. Number 5. 3 Little Pigs. The previous example left some space for speculation regarding whether it is a hidden message or just a byproduct of animators trying to make the cartoon look better and simpler to realize. In this next one, the hidden message may not be as hidden, but it is certainly a much darker one. In this 1933 Disney film, the 3 Little Pigs are shown as quite different characters. This cartoon outlines the ideas of being prepared and acting smart on time and aims to teach an important lesson. It explains that thinking ahead is a good way to ensure everyone's safety and shows the consequences of not doing so. However, besides broadcasting how valuable hard work and building a strong foundation are, this cartoon is filled with quite troublesome hidden messages. In this scene, as they are celebrating their safety behind firm walls, the piglets are dancing in front of their parents' pictures hanging on the said walls. While we can get the dark humor behind the father's image being that of processed meat, we aren't sure such a joke is appropriate for youth. Besides its humoristic effect, it could send worrisome ideas about our feeding habits. It could also induce a traumatic realization that the piglets have framed the remains of their father in such a freaky way. We have to take into account that the idea was created nearly 100 years ago. Luckily, our awareness and standards of what is okay and what isn't to show to children have evolved. Number 6. Ratatouille. As this next example shows us, we have at least become somewhat better at hiding these messages that we don't want kids to get. This way, cartoon movies can be made interesting, not just to the unaware young audience, but also add a bit of twist for the adults to enjoy. In Ratatouille, this hidden joke takes things to another level. To understand the joke, we have to start with the male character's position, as it plays a role in the setup of the joke that Disney has sneaked in. His name is Alfredo Linguini. Having feelings towards Colette, Alfredo starts feeling guilty as he's hiding a terrible secret. Feeling like a fraud and finally deciding to go through and tell her everything, he attempts a grand reveal. Running after Colette, who stormed out of the kitchen, he catches her right before she leaves and gets tangled up in his words. After announcing that he has a disturbing secret weighing on his shoulders, he proceeds to make things worse. As he was about to tell her that he had a little helper rat doing all the amazing cooking for which he had taken credit, he got stuck on the word tiny. Going as far as using his fingers to show how tiny this chef was, we see the way Colette has taken the meaning of these words. If we pay close attention, we see her glancing down toward the chef she thought he was talking about. Realizing that his point wasn't getting across, Linguini decides to show her the tiny chef as a way to make her understand. As he's announcing his intention, we even see Colette taking a step back and reaching for means to protect herself from what she was led to believe may be an assault. Luckily, this was all a big misunderstanding. Number 7. Toy Story. Hidden messages are sometimes intentionally made in a way that actually skips our conscious awareness of what we have been told. In the previous example, this was done mostly through a play of words and non-verbal communication of sorts. Besides relying on concrete input messages, animators have relied on other methods to foreshadow what is about to happen or to set the mood of the scenes. One method is to include elements from famous movies or other materials that the audience has already associated with a certain type of atmosphere. As we can see, Toy Story relies on these elements to announce what type of events are to be expected. To start from the reference itself, one of the most iconic horror movies of all time, The Shining, has introduced plenty of innovative ways to give us goosebumps. One element that gets stuck in the minds of those who watch it is the characteristic carpet that is spread through the hallways of the eerie hotel. Even if you haven't watched the movie, just one look at this scene will be enough for you to understand how it works. We see the famous scenes of a child riding through the hallways. Since the camera follows him as he turns on the corners, each next turn brings even stronger anticipation that something menacing is about to occur. In this way, the shapes of the carpet have made a strong association with this sense of unease. Getting back to how this was used to cause fear and a sense of impending danger in an equally famous Toy Story. By simply placing a carpet with the same shapes on the floor, the animators have announced the intentions of a character that is about to enter the scene. What's more important, this subtle detail can make the audience immediately realize what sort of energy the dog is bringing. Number 8. Tangled and the Lion King. By now, we have seen many ways that cartoons communicate messages. Some may be tough to notice and recognize, but others may be as plain as writing a word directly over the sky. As they say, the devil is in the details, and some feel Disney animators have taken quite a stroll down this lane. Concretely, there are multiple elements that allegedly spell sex in their cartoons. The first example is quite a tangled one and isn't too easy to recognize. Even though this may seem like just a normal poster, it hides a secret that may not be appropriate. If we take a closer look at the tied-up prince and the interesting shape the hair used as the rope has created, we may find the hidden word. Though it may take a while to untangle, the shapes can be interpreted as showing the letters that spell sex. If this was a lonely occurrence, one could suspect that it was just a slip-up. However, similar cases have been noticed in other cartoons as well. Getting back to The Lion King, there is an especially worrisome scene where the same letters can be recognized floating over the night sky. Namely, as Simba is lying down and looking at the stars, he receives a message, but not one he would have expected. Number 9. Aladdin. Whether shown through the surroundings, hidden in the details, or clearly written in the night sky. Hidden messages have been inputted into cartoons in a variety of ways. We have seen how even the characters' spoken words and reactions can send a message. We now take a look at an example where it isn't just about the spoken words, but about what they may sound like. The adventure this time takes us into the desert and the story of young Aladdin doing his best to riz beautiful Princess Jasmine. Relying on any available means, he even reached for a magical lamp and carpet to aid him in his quest to steal her heart. Flying up to Jasmine's balcony, determined to pull some moves, Aladdin came face to face with Raja, her tiger friend and protector. Even though one can't deny the courage to show up and give his best, what he proceeds to say in this situation makes some feel as if their childhood was ruined. Even though it was intended to sound like "good tiger, take off, scat, go," some have heard something else. Instead of trying to chase the tiger away, some heard him get somewhat too direct and say, "Take off your clothes." Regardless of it causing much controversy, it seems that this line truly wasn't intended to sound in such a way. Nevertheless, if there is a chance for someone to hear it wrong, intended or not, it could have a disturbing meaning, especially considering the inappropriate implications it could add to this cartoon. Number 10. Cinderella. Until now, we have seen all manner of ways in which various messages can be placed in a cartoon. But have we really focused on the most direct ones, those that can be realized from the actual content of the cartoon? Let us use this classic Disney cartoon from 1950 as an example of what sort of values children can be taught through cartoons. Not only that, but it can also show us what nowadays adults were taught in their childhood. She is a young woman whose positivity can't be beaten even by as disturbing a bunch as her stepmom and stepsisters who have taken it upon themselves to bully her as an outsider. Even in this tough environment, she shows her elegance, grace, and goodwill towards her stepfamily. She does her best to persevere, hence teaching us that happiness can be found even in the direst of situations. Another important value she exhibits is the readiness to forgive even those mistreating her in such a way. All of these were examples of some of the positive messages that Cinderella may have left us with. Not many would mind showcasing a positive outlook and being a bigger person. On the other hand, this cartoon may focus heavily on physical appearance. It can send a message that changing one's appearance, dressing up nicely, using makeup, and other means of making oneself look beautiful could fix any problem. Unfortunately, a simple makeover won't do as well in real life. Nevertheless, it could be what leads the young audience to such an idea. Number 11, the rescuers. Naturally, as society grows, so do our awareness, knowledge, and approaches to raising children. This is why we can't really blame the older cartoons for sending out messages and showing values that may not be as appreciated today. If we were to think what sort of reaction people would have 40 or 50 years ago to some of the modern cartoons, we could realize that a lot of what we have seen may have just been a blast from the past. This next example, however, is maybe the greatest betrayal of the young audience ever committed. The Rescuers is a cartoon about two mice, Bernard and Bianca, who are putting in their best effort to save a kidnapped girl named Penny. The first edition, released in 1977, was available on VHS, and it contained an Easter egg so unacceptable that it took us quite some time to find it and finally edit it out in 1992. Someone working on the film seems to have thrown in 2 frames showing a poster of a topless woman. The dark secret is hidden in the background, and we are exposed to it as 2 mice are seen flying on the back of a bird strapped in a can of sardines. Compared to all the other examples that we have seen up until now, this one had a clear intention behind it, one that can't even be explained as something that happened by mistake. Even though we caught this mistake in 1992 somehow, it slipped by on Laserdiscs in 1999. Some of these have made it into the stores, and it was too late to recall them, even though this effort was made quite quickly after its release. We can see that the disturbing frames were removed in any newer cartoon versions. Since we have examined many instances of hidden messages within cartoons, we can recognize many ways in which such an implicit communication line could be established. Every element of animation could convey these messages. We have seen it done through apparent means, such as appearing as hidden details, direct messages, or even hidden in the way that we could interpret what was said. Furthermore, we found out that it isn't only slip-ups that can result in a wrong message, but even intended puns that over time turn sour. It could be interesting to know whether some messages shown in today's cartoons could be frowned upon in the future. We are left with no option but to wait and see. Instead of saying goodbye, we could invite you to take some time and ask yourself if you have watched these cartoons before, and if so, did you previously notice any of these messages?